All right. Thank you, John. We will call this Board of Directors meeting to order at 7:04 p.m. This board has a land acknowledgement and anti-racism statement that they have written in support that we have posted on the board's website. Roll call tonight. We are missing Joshua Bowens tonight as an excused absence. And then we'll move into adoption of the agenda. Going to make a motion to amend the agenda to add approval of ACC members for Keith. And we are also going to remove the AGM bylaw amendments as we need to do a little bit more work on that. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
I'm in favor.
I'm in favor. If I speak up, it's a no.
Okay. All right. Then I'll make a motion to adopt the amended agenda. Any opposed to
Second.
that? We'll just pass it with acclamation then. All right, moving on to the consent agenda. Do we have any objections to the minutes that were submitted? All right, hearing none, then that passes. We will move into announcements. I do have one announcement to start with. So as some of you are aware, Rachel Tucker, our ASM and HR manager, will no longer be working in Sudden Valley full-time. Rachel has accepted another position closer to her home and family. However, she will continue to manage our HR needs in a role as an HR consultant for us. As one of our key management staff, Rachel has been a steady force at this board, and our employees could always count on to provide support and guidance on a daily basis. While we are disappointed to see her leave as a full-time member of Sudden Valley family, we are grateful for Rachel's dedication and continued support of our association. Rachel's last full day with Sudden Valley will be September 1st.
Clarifying question, AJ.
So,
She's she's doing the consulting until the position is we recruit a replacement for her. Is that accurate?
yeah. I guess Linda's hand and then Brian.
Okay, let's see. This is the last time I want to get to talk to the community before the end of it, but as a reminder to the community that anyone wishing to submit an AGM candidate application for either the board, N&E, or the ACC, the deadline is Tuesday, September 7th. The current hours of operation of the admin offices are that they close at 4 p.m. other than phone or email communication. So you will need to submit your application by then if you wait until the last day. N&E members will be present also should you have any last minute questions. Applications are available online and paper copies are available at the office. You can always email me at boardbradley@suddenvalley.com. There will be a candidate drawing meeting of the N&E scheduled for 4:30 p.m. on the 7th, where the applications will be opened, vetted, and the names will be placed in a drawing for their positions on the AGM ballot. Everybody get your applications in. That's all I got.
Brian?
First, I just wanted to wish Rachel the best in her next move in her career. Just wish her well. And also, I wanted to thank Joel Dobbins for doing such a wonderful job organizing the music for the Sudden Valley Fair. That was a lot of fun this weekend. And so thanks, did a great job. We should maybe have more of those events. down there. Saw Sam. It was fun. Anyway, all right. Put my hand down now.
All right. Do we have any other announcements? All right. Hearing none, we will move to property owner comments before we go into closed session.
Yeah, we do have a few attendees with us here tonight, and looks like we do have a raised hand. If I can get my screen to the right place here, I'll bring Kevin on over. Kevin, if you could give your name and address, please. And there you go. Should be able to unmute and join us now.
Okay. Yeah, I'm Kevin on Lake Louise Drive. Good evening, directors. And I again want to thank you for your volunteerism and all the hours and effort you put in to better our community and cleaning up messes from previous board indiscretions and whatever else you do. So I thank you. I encourage you to continue your efforts to be transparent, equitable, and inclusive. So I want to talk about two issues today. The first is related to traffic in Sun Valley, and the second is related to what I believe is a disturbing widespread construction practice, which I emailed previously to all of you, I think. So as far as the traffic, let me just preface this by saying, I prefer quiet, low traffic volume, low speed roads that are pedestrian oriented and bicycle friendly. I think most of you prefer that as well. But I've heard members express concern that we're drifting away from that environment. But the solutions they're proposing are not very well thought out, in my opinion. So there's three things I keep hearing over and over. The first one is sidewalks. So I'm not sure where you would retrofit sidewalks or pathways in Sun Valley. I personally haven't seen too many viable spots. And I'm not too worried about this one because it is cost prohibitive, especially with our soil type and tree roots. So there's no ROA or ROW. There's simply no room given the drainage needs and the road width, and it's not even feasible to really stripe a bike lane in the road. So, but and even if some people did agree to letting it go through their property, it creates an extreme hazard because now you have people walking and riding bicycles across driveways and constantly re-entering and exiting the roads at points where the path abruptly ends. So not really an economical or physically doable. The second item in this trifecta of ill-advised, ill-conceived suite of traffic management strategies. Sorry, that was probably called for, but it's speed bumps or speed humps, a little less aggressive than speed bumps. And this is one of my pet peeves. And speed bumps are not randomly installed. Engineers conduct studies to see if humps are warranted in accordance with widely accepted guidelines. They have to measure traffic volumes and speeds in the field. And again, this is probably a moot point because we're not going to qualify unless, I'm not sure how private roads work. It's unfortunately, we have private roads since roadways are one of the best public goods available. But if you don't adhere to standard engineering practices, you're just opening yourself up to lawsuits anyway. So that's why we don't, presumably why we don't, allow green circle stop signs in Sun Valley. We have to adhere to the uniform traffic control device standards, right? So accepted standards throughout the country. So, but there's a lot more reasons like to hate speed bumps. They lower property values. So cities are being sued nationwide because speed humps reduce property values. They're noisy. You apply your brakes, and if your brakes are squeaky, it's even worse. And you hear the kapoom kapoom. That's my best sound imitation of going over the speed hump. And if you have tools in the back truck, you hear that. Then you have an acceleration. And then during this acceleration, you're increasing criteria emissions, greenhouse gases, and fuel consumption. So, and speed humps damage cars. They're not conducive to snow removal. It can damage the blades. You can damage the speed humps. And I can't imagine driving up, icy steep road like we have in Sudden Valley and getting to the top only to be encounter a speed hump. So navigating around that. So, but the number one reason is they just don't work. Studies have shown that people simply speed up between the humps to make up for lost time and create more of a hazard. If you put them in, there are places where they can work, but you have to put them in at regular 300-foot intervals, which, that's what, about 18 per mile. So 40 miles, about like 700 humps in Sudden Valley. I mean, that's for illustrative purposes. Obviously, that's an exaggeration, but and again, they're not cheap to install or maintain. And then, so the third issue I keep hearing about is emergency exits. So I want to emphasize that there's not been a problem that's been identified, but there is presumably a problem perceived by at least one member. And I'm not sure if they're proposing, and the board said they would look into this. I'm not sure if they're proposing ingress or just egress, but once you put in a road and it's going to have to be a paved road, there's going to be increasing pressure to make it a two-way gate, right? And so the problems with that is eventually you're going to have a two-way ingress egress that's going to damage the character of the neighborhood. Traffic volumes are going to increase. People are going to use their shortcuts and park in neighborhoods to use the trails, and there's going to be more pedestrian vehicle accidents and encounters. So, and then of course, if you have a paved road going into a public roadway, I mean, that's not to our discretion. Where it intersects and where that road is depends on engineering factors such as sight distance, and I'm not sure what the ADTs are on roads like Whatcom Road, but it would probably warrant at least a stop sign, if not a stoplight, if you have an intersection. Now you're creating a high probability accident zone, because that's what intersections are. Right? They're where most accidents happen. But even if it's just an emergency exit, it's still a bad idea, because the single best way to disrupt traffic flow and impede an emergency exit is to introduce a second stream of traffic or multiple streams of traffic into the original flow. This kind of basic traffic flow theory. So the reason we have, and it's the reason we have freeway on-ramp stoplights, right? So, but imagine a vehicle crashing at that intersection and blocking traffic. So instead of a solution, it's really exacerbates the situation. So I prefer, it's my opinion, that we should just stick with emergency planning. So I just wanted to address some of those traffic control issues that are frequently brought up. And I don't know if anybody's over. I can't see anything.
Yeah.
So
Sorry, go ahead.
so sidewalks, speed humps, and emergency exits. I don't know if you have formed opinions about those things.
I would say, I agree with everything you said about speed humps. And to add another point to that is they also slow down emergency response time and emergency evacuation timing as well. But yeah, I think the big thing that you highlighted is there's lots of studies that prove they don't actually slow people down, and people just become more aggressive as a result of them by speeding up and slowing down. And the emergency exit thing is definitely requires some planning and some actual engineering and some thought to it. It's not as simple as just slap a road in, ingress or egress or both. It needs to be planned and well thought out, and like you said, the county has to approve where any egress or ingress and egress would be onto a county road.
You'll have right-of-way issues, you'll have culverts that will be needed, but most importantly, I think, was the point that they're not going to help the traffic flow if you have 2-3 lanes, if you're using shoulders, moving traffic in one direction in emergency And now you're introducing a second stream perpendicular, trying to get into that traffic flow, or more than one second stream, then, it's just gonna be a nightmare. So,
Well, and Kevin, we agree with you. The Whatcom County and our local fire station and the emergency planning, the Bellingham and Whatcom County emergency planning, and also DNS handle these things. There are evacuation plans in place. And that's obviously they're the experts in that. Sun Valley does have evacuation plans, but they basically, those plans are to say, here's where you evacuate. Lake Whatcom, Lake Louise, you're going to follow the instructions of the experts that put these plans in place, and they work on these exercises on a regular basis to ensure exactly what you're talking about, the safety of the majority or all of the people. So those are the things that, as a board, that we'll defer to. I realize that some community members are saying that. I know you're hearing it, but we will defer to the experts when it comes to that, to make sure that we're not being reactionary, that we're just making sure.
And I didn't mean to imply
Yeah,
that you wouldn't be
No, I didn't mean that either.
Sure
And regarding those sidewalks, just real quick, you should actually join the long range planning committee, because you sound like you're like perfect for the committee. And but the thing about the sidewalks, that's something that we'll be looking with the engineering plan for our roads and culverts coming up.
Yeah.
And it would be something that would be not a traditional sidewalk. It may be something where we, on one side of the road, just extend the asphalt. AJ's kind of talked about this. Maybe, there's standardized plans for that in rural communities. So where we can maybe do some of that shoulder work on one side, and you just shift the road a little bit. And it's part of our, you plan it along with the resurfacing as we resurface the road. So it keeps the cost down, but it would only be, that's something, again, that we have, that the engineers will be looking at when they do the full.
Well, that'd be interesting, because when you say stuff like, just shift the road over a little bit, that's an enormous and expensive undertaking from an engineering perspective. And the time to put in the sidewalks was 50 years ago when the roads were built. I don't know with drainage and all how it would even be done. For me, this is like the least concern, because I don't see this ever happen. I mean, there are places, I'm sure, I have very limited knowledge of the roads and just my gate basically, but I don't see how it would be, how you would even begin to do that. And like I said, it's not going to be, it's probably going to be in and out of the road. So now you have bicycles going, across driveways and into the road, and where the path ends, and then back onto the path. And that's actually a lot worse, that intermingling with cars, bicycles, cars, and pedestrians, and just keeping it in the road. I mean, I want to see, I've seen people travel too fast, and it bothers me, but there's other potential solutions. So I want to be safe, as well.
Yeah. And some of what we discussed too could just be a gravel, or dirt trail, on the side of the road too, as an alternative. Or we also have in our, budget planning to start to plan and develop a more connected trail system. So you could have strategic placement of like some sort of sidewalk or trail next to the road, sidewalk alternative that connects to two trails, that were not able to be connected through either green space due to private property or, grade issues or something like that. So you could have some targeted stuff, but
yeah, I guess, if you're bridging between two trails or something, you could come up with a
the reality of sidewalks everywhere is, like you said, that ship sailed 60 years ago. with the county approving the types of roads that this developer proposed to build here. I mean, the grades alone, we couldn't meet ADA compliance on sidewalks. We couldn't do a lot of the things that would be required.
Right. Can I take 2 more minutes of your time? Because I really want to get this second issue in. And it's, and first I want to say it's about the ACC. And I want to say that committee, their workload and the breadth of their responsibility is incredible. Right? It's far too wide, in my opinion. I mean, they're talking about house paint and then preventing contractors from, approving plans for building houses. So I wanted to say, again, they're all volunteers. I appreciate their work. But there's one issue that was brought to my attention by looking at a previous ACC meeting on Zoom last month. And that's regard to being more diligent with regard to tree management. So in this ACC meeting, which really drove the point home, a developer was petitioning to build a house in Sun Valley. And an ACC committee member, knows that on a previous build, this contractor killed over 13 trees. Now, he didn't kill them instantly, right? But there is an imminent death. So, if you shoot someone and they die 3 days later in the hospital, you killed them. Pretty sure that's what the law would think anyway. So the only defense that this contractor gave was, I don't know what you're talking about, and in kind of a smug way. And this issue was, and this is what was really alarming. It was a committee member, and the other committee members didn't heed her words. And so, the contractor kind of smugly brushed it off, and then they approved his plans. I mean, there's a lot of other issues with the plan, so it's kind of a conditional or provisional approval. But it was really bothering me, and here's why. Because I think our trees are extremely valuable to this community. And if there's, if you have any doubt of that, look at the last survey. Almost every question was answered with how much they value the trees and environment, right? And when cutting down our trees, to me, is tantamount to stealing from this community and stealing one of our most valuable assets. So I guess, and I'm worried that this is not an uncommon practice. I mean, I'm sure it's not okay for contractors to kill trees with impunity. So are there deterrents? What are the deterrents? Fines, removal, replacement. To me, that's not really a deterrent. That's the cost of doing business in Sudden Valley from a contractor's perspective. So I just want to get an idea of how, because when it comes to cutting down a dead tree on someone's property, I just want to make sure we're at least as vigilant about contractors cutting down trees. Not illegally, obviously, there's nothing illegal about it, but against our approval. It's just, we pay as much attention to that as homeowners, at least, right?
I'll say it's not just the ACC's, responsibility as well. Whatcom County plays a big part in tree removal. They're the ones with kind of the overarching laws with the Lake Whatcom watershed overlay, and the code and rules that go along with that too. And they do enforcement of, that type of thing. They have 2 staff members in their planning department that do check on those things. One thing people have to remind themselves of too is everyone's house required trees to get cut down to be built. So there's
I think in a previous meeting, I made the comment that we're all beneficiaries of some very bad decisions that were made 50 years ago that allowed us all to move in here and build houses and roads and marinas and golf courses and all that. I mean, and then have an impaired watershed as a result, and then which is a whole nother issue. But I'm curious if what is the recourse for a contractor? And I didn't mean that. I understand the ACC they do an amazing amount of work. I think there's 4 of them. So, their workload is ridiculous. But what recourse do we have as a community if a contractor just willingly, either for convenience or even inadvertently cuts down trees or kills trees.
And Kevin, so on some of those issues, I'm sorry, I'll interject here. Some of them, it depends. They're all a little different. What you might want to do is write you can write Keith McLean, like BOD McLean at suddenvalley.com. And he may be able to address those specific questions on that, because sometimes it's on the private lot and they have to take those trees down depending on the size of the home they're building. And sometimes it's not. So it kind of just depends on, that specific question and the area that you're talking about. So it might be more helpful at this time.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yep.
I've taken up too much of your time, and I don't know the details. I just know, as presented by one of the committee members, this contractor did damage or kill. It said killed over 13 trees. So I take her word for it, and I think we should have stopped right there and looked into it a little bit, because this is, like I said, I don't know how common this practice is, but I hope it's not.
Well, I'd like to address you real quick if I can. I know we're taking a lot of time here. Hey, yeah, real quickly, the issue is we look at each lot individually, right, and on its own merits, and we really can't make a decision on a new build off what could have happened at an old build. So we try to keep it separate and not personal. The county is responsible for all tree permits. They are required to pull permits before they take down any trees. And we also have a ratio for replacing trees. So if they take down a tree, it's a 3-to-1 ratio, depending on the location and how much lot space is left. So we really try to do watch that. We require silt fencing, but really the county is ultimately responsible for that. They're supposed to, if there are like I know who you're talking about, and they mentioned there was like 12 or 13 trees that were killed. The problem is there was no report of that. So there was no record that that actually happened. And also the county takes into consideration the size of the trees. They call them insignificant trees, and those trees can be removed. And unfortunately, there's quite a few of those. They're pretty small in diameter, but they can be removed without county permit and without our approval, really. You can do it your own lot, So we do try to watch that. Just to let you know, that is one of the things we do look at when somebody submits a new build. We're always looking at the landscape, how many trees they're removing, what they're replacing the trees with, and stuff like that.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate weighing in. Yeah, this is apparently through excavation, not purposely cutting them down or in agreement with pre-established plans and everything like that. So I just
Thank you for your concern. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll return you to the attendees here. And anybody else for property owners' comments?
All right. Well, we'll have another one at the end of the meeting as well for anyone that wants to speak up then. Moving forward, do you have a motion to move into closed session?
Motion to move into closed session.
Second.
All those in favor? All right. We'll see everyone over there.
again.
Hey, Sam. I'm going to resend you the invite to the closed session there. Maybe that'll give you a hand.
Okay.
Okay, Sam.
Yeah.
If you've got your board email open, I just resent the closed session invite to you.
Okay. Let me see if I can get back to the email.
Oh. It just dawned on me that this is probably.
I'm trying to shift over to this other meeting. If you could help me, maybe, how to get out of this Zoom.
You can down
Do
the
I need-
corner. You
Do
can
I
click
need to
the
leave?
Yes, you could leave the meeting down there in the corner. There you go.
All right. Give people another minute to pop back over here, and then we will move into finances.
Yeah, it's like a black screen kind of night, huh?
I'm doing you all a favor. Good Brent. He's here.
I didn't leave.
You should like put your dog up to the screen.
Oh,
Like filling in for you.
I hear a little tiny voice.
It's a baby.
Mhm.
All right. Well, let's keep moving forward. Do you have a motion to move back into open session?
I move to go back into open session at 9:10 p.m.
Second.
All those in favor?
aye.
All right.
Aye.
That passes unanimously. The board will not be taking any action as a result of closed session. And is Mr. Heverling there? I'll be passing it over to Kim and Joel for the treasurers and finances.
I'll get us started. Hopefully Joel will join us soon. Just a quick recap of finance. Finance committee had a meeting on Wednesday, August 18th. It was a very short meeting. There were only 3 committee members present, so we did not have a quorum, but what we did cover is we talked about the June finances, which Joel will go over with the community again at this meeting. And then also Sam came and went through his 2021 pool covers capital request, which we will also do at this meeting for the board to vote on. And hopefully everyone got the information in their packet and were able to look over the 2 proposals for that. So if Joel is present, I will have him, hi Joel, share his screen.
Hello.
And go over the June 2021 financial statements for the community.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to go over the June 30, 2021 financial statements. I'll start off with the balance sheet. So in your packet, this is page. I'm actually looking at what you can see online. If you go to the Finance Committee website, you can see the full financial statements. That's what I have up here. But according to your packet, this is page 2 in the packet itself, which is the balance sheet section of it. There's nothing really major going on with this, which is a good thing in terms of we have good net operating assets. Down in this section is where you can see all the reserve cash accounts that pertain to capital accounts. And then probably maybe what would be most interesting would be the SURF loan amount. You can see how the SURF loan amount has gone down from this column right here is December 31, 2020. And the column next to this is the June 30, 2021. So you can see how the SURF loan balance has dropped from 1.26 million to 1.19 million. This is just us basically it's the payments, the monthly payments that are pulling it down. But then if we go to page
we'll move on to page 3, the income statement, which is the more interesting page, I should say, in this. So what you're looking here is this column right here is it's just a month ending June 2021. So you're only looking at the month of June. This column over here is the June 30, 2021. This is the year-to-date column. So especially once we start to get into, especially at the end of June, now that we're working with 6 full months, and the year-to-date becomes probably the most relevant and interesting column to look at this point. So now a couple things would be, so we had, in terms of net income year-to-date at the end of June 2021, we have 254,106. Now, last year we had $12,035 in net income. Of course, now keep in mind, we also forgave dues back in April. And so basically the amount that we forgave back in April would probably be around, it's going to be approximately this 182 and then the 34,000 added together from the rec special assessment. But even if I were to, let's just say if we actually collected those dues back in April, if we did collect it at the 95% collection rate, we would still be, if anyone was interested to know, we would still be better than last year by 36,000. So what I'm saying is, back in April 2020, if we said, no, we're still collecting those dues, we're not waiving them, we would still be better now than we were last year. It's just here, it's very obvious that we're better because we did not collect the dues back in April. And that's what basically is giving us that $12,000 net income at the end of June 2020 versus the $254,000 net income at the end of June 2021. So we're at this point 120,000 better than budget. The collection rate, as you can see, is 94.5% at the end of June 2021. The budgeted collection rate is 95% during 2021. So that's what we're shooting for at the end of the year. In terms of at the end of June 2020, the collection rate year to date was 93.9%. So we're tracking better at the end of June 2021 than at the end of June 2020 year to date. Now, I've already calculated the collection rate for July. So our collection rate for July has held firm at 94.5% for year to date at the end of July 2021. Year to date, July 2020, it was 94.6%. So we're tracking very similar to how we tracked last year. And last year, we actually ended out the year at 12/31/2020 with a collection rate of 95.5%. So we're on track to hit the budget. If we just keep going the way that we're going, we will make our 95% collection rate and possibly better at the end of 2021 when this year wraps up. Now, in terms of, I have been mentioning the expense to revenue ratio, which is just, all this is the total expenses right here, 1.87 million divided by the total revenue. So, lower number is always better in this case. So our revenue or expense to revenue ratio is 88% at the end of June 2021. At the end of June 2020, since we had only $12,000 net income, it's going to be higher, which is worse. So it was 99.3%. So we would expect to see that. At the end of May 2021, it was 88.6%. So it's edged down, which is good, to 88%. So we're improving over May of 2021. Okay, so on page 4 here, in your agenda packet, this is the capital reserve funds. And basically, like this net available cash right here, this line, like these lines right here, like SURF, we'll just look at SURF. So it's 2.143 million. Then if I scroll quickly back to the balance sheet, there's the 2.143 million. So that's kind of how you could compare that to the balance sheet, or how it articulates to the balance sheet. Now, so basically with these reserve cash funds, like I've talked about before, this also, in these last 2 columns, emergency operations, UDR, like for example, there's emergency ops. Well, we'll look at UDR, 367,055. Then you would also find this back in the balance sheet. here at the bottom of this kind of operating reserve fund section, 367,055, there's the emergency ops right above it. But this is just, all this sheet is, it's a handy sheet to look at because it's basically showing you beginning cash at 12/31/2020, this top line, which that 1.688 million, I'll just show you real quick again. There it is right there, the December 31 column there. But this is all the cash coming in from dues received, investment income, expenditures down here. Now, when I say expenditures, this is going to largely be capital projects that we're spending money on, and which also, so then when we get into this section down here, this is the projection section. The biggest thing right here is the obligated expenses amount. And so if we look at SURF, so we have obligated expenses of close to 310,000 right here. Now, let me see here. And you can see this capital project sheet that I have up here. Okay, so if we're looking at SURF, here's the 309,919. Now it looks like these sheets didn't make it into the agenda packet, but if you went and looked at if you go to the Finance Committee website and looked at that agenda, you would see these SURF pages in the June Finance Committee agenda packet. But basically, right here, this is all the projects for SURF approved by the board. So the board has approved all of these. Board approved amount, which is this column right here. Total invoiced amount, what we've been invoiced so far. Then accounting funds obligated, so 309,919. So then if we go back to this sheet, basically it's a conservative approach because it's assuming that we're going to spend the remainder of what needs to be spent from these obligated funds. So it treats it as money already earmarked and set aside and spent, so to speak. So this is, and then you have your board recommended carryover balance, 600,000, which is just the minimum amount that you kind of want to maintain in this account. And then, so this gives you the net usable cash projected at the end of 2021, at the end of 12/31/2021, 1.9 million for SURF, roads, 1.72 million, capital reserve holding fund, 993,000, so on and so forth. Here's mailboxes, 75,377, UDR, 267, 267, and emergency ops. And these are basically, I mean, all your major SURF, roads, mailboxes, the major components of your dues coming in, they're all up from last year. UDR is the only one that's really dropped, but this is only because, if I go back to this page here, so if we're looking at the UDR, this UDR is now reflecting all of the UDR amounts that the board has approved. So like back in May, hazardous tree removal, there's the extra 40,000 there. On June 10, GM recruiting, which is approved by the board to come out of UDR, 34,300. So once again, this is already treating it as it's as good as spent, it's set aside, so to speak. So there's 103,850 right here. And then you would see that here in terms of obligated amounts. Now, we'll just go to the next page. So we're looking at this page right here, which is page 5 in your packet, is literally the same thing as the income statement right here. It's the same thing as basically this column here, the month to date column. So there's the net income before UDR, net income of 44,480. Then if I go back to this, you'll see the 44,480 here. But now this is taking that net income amount or those income statement amounts, and it's breaking it out for you by department. So now you can see by department how this is working. So if we look at golf, we'll just focus on this since golf is our biggest revenue producing department. But so actual revenue for golf month to date, 120,772. Last year at the end of June 2020, it was 107,861. So they're close to $13,000 better for golf. Total golf expenses would be the actual salary benefits here, plus basically all other expenses here. So 57,093 plus the 25,329 here is how you're reading the sheet, would give you total golf expenses 82,422. Last year it was 84,153 by for the month of June 2020. So expenses are very similar to last year at this time, just approximately 17,000 or 1,700 lower, excuse me. So net income for golf, 38,350 for the month versus last year at the end of June 2020 was 23,708. So they're actually better by 14,642. This at the month or for the month for June 2021 versus June 2020. Now this page becomes more relevant, page 6 here in your packet. We're looking at all this departmental income statement stuff. So I'll go back to the income statement real fast. So you heard me mention that 254,106 for the year-to-date number. And then if we go to the year-to-date statement, there's a 254,106 there. And so basically it's the same stuff. It's just broken out now by department. And so if we focus on golf again, now golf is right there, 616,421 revenue wise for the year-to-date, January 1, 2021 through June 30, 2021. Last year, they were 455,457. So they're better than last year-to-date by close to 161,000. Of course, golf was closed last year for approximately like 40 days, somewhere around there, the close of the pandemic. So some of that will have to do with that as well. But even when you try to take that into account, golf is still better, even if they would have stayed open last year during that same time period. Now the actual salary benefits, this amount plus the actual other expenses here. So golf has total expenses of 440,699. Last year they had total expenses of 384,999. And that's another thing we would expect to see since golf was also closed for about 40 days. So we would expect their expenses to be lower last year-to-date than this year. So we're about $56,000 higher expenditure wise, but most of that is also due to them as well being closed last year. Now net income for golf, 175,722 versus last year, their net income was 70,458. So they're better net income wise year-to-date over last year by 105,264. Now in terms of like departments right here, so now you're looking at departments. You're looking at the net better, worse. Basically this is how the department did according versus budget. So for example, administration is down. There are really just a couple here worth mentioning. So it shows that administration is overexpended by approximately 63,000. And that's just a combination of things like, for example, Robert Half billings for Glenn, which was clearly more than what you would have paid like the GM salary if he would have been here at the time. So you just have more expenditures for like contracted professional services, Robert Half billings, supply expense, office supplies, recruiting expenses. But the big difference there is basically the Robert Half billings. Common costs here, 24,477. This is literally just a combination of property taxes, just property taxes being higher than budgeted, and just, obviously increased legal expenses for this during this year. Maintenance, 37,867. This is literally just coming down to weather related stuff, snow removal, weather response. But I would say those are the main highlights for the financial statements. If anyone had any questions for these.
I have a question.
Oh,
I'm
sure.
sorry. I can't raise my hand because I don't have a camera. I found the button. Oh, sorry. Now I could do it. I apologize. So the marina is losing money. And then up above there, when you were showing the month, it said 11,000 and some change. And then in the, in the better or worse column, it had the same dollar amount.
Are you talking about on the main income statement?
Yeah, just above that where it shows like 11,000. No, just on the page prior to the other one. Right there, it goes 11,981 is the actual revenue, and then it says it's better than budgeted by 11,981. Was it budgeted $0?
Yeah, well, with Marina, the like dry slips and like we could go even right to the Marina page just for the heck of it.
I don't believe it was budgeted $0 is what I was asking.
Yes, so like Marina wet slip income in here. Yeah, so the budget $0 for Marina. So at this time of the year, it just depends on how this gets budgeted in the system. So, but usually like all this slip income would be budgeted to come in sooner in the year, which is what we would expect to see. So that's why, like for example, like Maddie set up this budget last year in terms of like the timing of when these types of revenues would come in. So that's why this budget was set at 0 by actually her at that time. So that kind of format was just retained for this year or for 2021. But actually Maddie actually was the one who did the budget for 2021. So, but it's just a function of when she felt this slip income would actually be coming in. Because I believe they bill all of this. Gosh, I want to say it's like back in April or something like that when they originally bill it.
And then Sonia, note that also that's just for June and not for the entire year.
Right. Just, yeah, this is only month to date, only for the month.
Yeah, I understood that. So we're already and also for the year, it's still showing a loss, and that's another one of our profit centers.
Yeah.
I just couldn't understand why it
I
would be
know.
budgeted at 0 for the month, because it was saying we're up 11,000 for the month, and I'm like, I don't quite understand that. That was the question on this portion, right? And then on the other was just it's showing here that we're up 11,000, but then we're up, we're behind budgeted amount, expectations by for the year, like by almost $8,000.
It's actually by
Oh, it is 8,774.
yeah. Now I know what this is. Like, for example, like Gil is sitting on approximately $9,000 of revenue that he's still waiting on paperwork from Marina for where to, like, what he just needs to build accounts for people and then apply the money that has already been received to these accounts. And if he had the paperwork and was able to do that, this right here would be gone. Then you would not see that amount. But that's really all there is to it. He has about $9,000 sitting in what's called a suspense account for now while he's waiting on paperwork.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Linda has her hand up.
Okay, just got a couple quick questions, actually. So I've gone and looked at the roads capital project report, where that we have obligated funds of $813,789. There's a lot of those projects. They all show that they're still active, but there's a lot of them that there has been no change in any money since like March of this year, and some of them clear back into December of 2020. And if we close those and there's overages in all of these accounts, then wouldn't we have more money that was unobligated and was actually going back into roads? I don't know what your process is for getting somebody to close these.
Yeah, basically all the things that are closed, like the ones that you were talking about, the older ones. So these projects are like, for when I close these things at the end of the year, then I'll go to, at this case, Glenn, and show him, hey, here are the projects that are open. Do you want this one closed or do you not want this one closed? And like, for example, like this one, did you mention Barn 7? Was that one of the ones?
Yeah, and that may have use, but for instance, the Windward Drive retaining wall design, there's $17,000 in there that's had no movement since 12 of 2020.
Yeah.
I just don't know why some of these aren't closed.
Yeah, that's another one so anything that is open, an older one, was one that Glenn wanted me to keep open, that he felt that we would do more work on.
Wow. Well, there's like 2020 pothole repairs. It's 2021, folks.
Yeah,
It's,
so,
you know, I'm
like-
just saying, normally we close.
yeah,
You know, from being here that they get closed a lot sooner, and it makes a better bottom line for how much is available in roads for, you know, that's available money. I can see if they're open or if there's been recent activity, but according to the other records that are out there, there hasn't been. That's all.
right, yeah, and yeah, like I said, any of these older projects, like all of these projects I reviewed with Glenn, and it just comes down to if he felt more spending would be done to them and if he wanted them to be open at year end.
Oh, I know. I'm saying there's over $85,000 there and stuff that hasn't had any activity on it. That's all. And
Yeah,
I don't, for me, that's not a minimal amount of money. The only other question I had for you is we're close to September. And I guess I'm curious what's been happening with the PPP loan business and the papers and where we're going with that, because there's really been nothing discussed all year long.
yeah,
Much.
I have a easy answer for that. So all of that has been submitted to the bank at this point. Matter of fact, it was all submitted to the bank early this week, meaning the whole application. So now it's in the bank's court. So the bank will go through their steps to then send this off to the feds for forgiveness.
Do we
So-
know how long the waiting period will be or no?
Well, I think if I remember right, that at the federal level, it could take 30 days, possibly 60, I think. But it's somewhere, the bank side of it goes pretty quickly.
Yep. So we'll know before the end of the year.
Oh, yes, yeah. for
Worst
sure.
case scenario.
Yeah, yeah, we will.
Those are my only two questions.
Yeah. And another thing, Linda, you're right in terms of once we close something and if something is underspent on a capital project, then whatever, like if it was approved for 100,000 when it was spent 50, then the other 50 becomes unreleased, so to speak, and then increases the
It'd
available
just-
amount.
It'd be nice, and considering that you're gonna be, it might be worth having the execs or Kim sit down with you and look at it. Or have the execs take a look at it, because you're gonna have a brand new general manager that's not gonna have any information about these. And like I say, right now, there's at least $85,000 in
Yeah.
there that's.
Mhm.
Like another quick, here's another thing, remember this, Linda, this hazardous tree removal line, right?
Yes, and I left that open because in theory, they should spend that money. The
Oh, right,
trees have
yes.
been identified and everything else.
And that's basically, that was kind of like the thinking Glenn had, was especially something like potholes. Hey, here's an amount that we could still spend more money on potholes and not have to do another capital request and take to the board. And since kind of like with that hazardous tree removal, it's already approved and here's an amount that still could be spent.
Yeah. Yeah, I left that out of the equation and stuff because I think, to me, that's money that, it's just work that hasn't been done, but that has definitely been specified. It's just something to think about before
Right.
the end of the year.
Oh, sure, yeah,
know?
absolutely. Yeah,
Thanks, Linda and Sonia.
Welcome.
I would just like to point one thing out that I think Glenn's thought process is not correct. The board approved a project, not like an open-ended dollar amount to be spent on like multiple projects. Like they brought forward a specific pothole repair request that said it needed this much money. If it comes in cheaper than budget, that's great, but that doesn't give the general manager authority to create a new project and just continue to spend down that fund.
uh-huh.
So
That's maybe then all the more reason for the execs to take a look at some of this stuff with you, Joel, just quietly before a new GM comes on.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
any other questions? All right, let's keep this moving along and we'll move into the pool filter capital requests. I'll turn it over to Sam to present that.
Evening, everybody. I'm gonna read over the pool filter requests right now. So the purpose of this request is for capital funding for the purchase of 42 new pool filter disc covers with Velcro. As you all know, the pools have reopened for the summer for the first time, having since been out of commission since the COVID restrictions began a year and a half ago. Sesco Solutions has identified that some of our pool filter covers for the main pool have failed. So there are 2 banks of these filters on the pool, 21 on each bank, making a total of 42 filters. 21 of these 42 filter covers were replaced in 2016, while the other half have been in use for even longer than that and are beginning to fail. So Sesco Solutions has been sewing them up so the covers stay on. But when it's time to clean the filters, the covers must be removed. So the aging filter cover zippers are becoming increasingly worn and broken. Sesco is currently manually sewing and closing the zippers on the filter covers themselves. So continued in this current state, this will probably result in them falling apart and being unusable. So Sesco has advised that the filter covers that were replaced in 2016 still appear to be in working condition, but the other half need to be replaced. So after doing some research on my own, I have found that the zipper covers are actually becoming non-existent, and most pools nowadays use these Velcro covers instead of the zippers because the zippers tend to break, such as ours are doing. So the zippers are apparently the outdated way of doing it, and the Velcro is what most pool companies and pools are moving towards. So it is recommended that we replace all of the covers now to bring them up to date, rather than replace half now and wait for the already 6-year-old covers to fail sooner than later, which will require more hours of labor to complete. Doing this will ensure that the main pool will be safe, sanitary, and functional for as long as possible, as well as saving us some money compared to the option of replacing half now and half later. If this is accepted right away, it would still take some time for the order to arrive and for the replacement to be completed, and the process would be delayed until after the pool season due to need for new bids. As a result, if a filter becomes clogged, we may be unable to clean the pool and we may have to close it for a period of time during our season. Currently, Sesco has been bumping the system over and over without draining it, washing the pit and filter discs in fear that more zippers will fail. A bunch of zippers pulled open and won't zip anymore like a worn out jacket. If they don't seal, when they add the number 35 delicate for filtration, it may blow out into the pool and they need to seal. So my proposal is to provide funding for the purchase and labor of installing 42 pool disc filter covers with Velcro. My request, I request a total of $5,192.46 before taxes. With an 8.6% tax rate, tax will be $455.15. This includes the 8.6% tax on the $100 worth of freight, which brings the total to $5,747.61 after taxes. So I request we replace all 42 filters. This will take an estimated of 7 hours labor time. Sesco has quoted us at $109 per hour of the labor to replace the filters, all 42. If we replace all filters now rather than half later at the current quoted rate, we will be saving $108.50 in labor costs. So I move to approve the amount of $5,747.61 from the CRRF fund that are necessary for the replacement of the 42 disc filter covers with Velcro. And then the other request is just basically half of that. So the second request is just replacing half of the 21, which is exactly just half the cost of that.
Did we lose AJ?
Oh, we did. That's
Okay.
interesting.
I'll facilitate this until he comes back in since it's a finance issue. So, Sam, thank you very much for your very thorough proposals. They're well explained with all the great details. And so I wanted to ask the committee for your feelings as to whether or not you are so inclined to opt for replacing all of the filters or just the 21 that are in ill repair now. So we have the option of doing all 42 and saving money later. And the ones 21 need to be replaced now. And then 21 we did in 2016. So 21 are absolutely necessary, but doing all 42 saves us some money and gets us up to date with the latest in pool filters. Is that accurate, Sam?
Yes, that's correct.
And I think, Linda, you have a question.
I don't have a question. I have some history.
Oh, okay. Go for it.
In 2011, when we did one of our very first reserve studies, these Velcro, if that's what they were described, these Velcro pads were on there. No one in the valley could tell us what they belonged to or anything else. So we thought maybe they don't use them anymore. So we took them off the reserve study. So that means that they were bought prior to 2011. So I would really strongly suggest with the price that we're talking about, and I don't get a vote in this, that you just replace them all now. You know, we've got new pump equipment and everything in there. And I think I think it's best to just replace them now. And it's the best way to support the new pump equipment and stuff that's in there. That's all I got.
Thank you, Linda. Any other comments for discussion?
I just want to thank Sam also, because I agree. Those are, I know you put a lot of work into that. They were really thorough. And thank you for doing that, presenting a really good capital request.
Thank you.
Samuel had a comment.
Yes, it sounds to me to make sense to go all in because of supply and shipment of items. It's been an ongoing nightmare, and then any changes that will come later down the road, we may not be able to find that particular stuff. So if we can get it all done, and then there'll be upgrades possibly to that equipment in years to come, and then we can evaluate again. But it looks like we could be stuck halfway if we only go for half of them at that time. So.
And then Sam, did you say that if we went with this current bid, we could get this up and going for this pool season?
So as of right now, we have about a week left of the main pool being open. So
not really.
Not really.
But we'll be ready for next year.
Correct.
Samuel has another question.
Yes. How long do we keep running that equipment to keep that pool right? It's like you don't just shut it off when we no longer have swimming. Do we keep it running for a while?
Right. So if we get that equipment in, we would keep the pool running as it is now, because currently it's being bumped. So what he's doing is knocking off of all the delicate and then filling up the filter culvert full of water again, and then letting it kind of clean itself. But it's getting to the point where he can't do that anymore. So while that's happening, he'll just keep doing that until the equipment comes, and then be able to change it with the new covers.
Samuel?
Yeah. My question was, how much does that run during off season in the winter? I know we've got nice covers we're supposed to put on there, but you still have to operate that a bit, or is it just shut down and you don't filter once you put covers on?
I'm not quite sure how much it operates in the off season. I know it still gets maintenance, but I'm not quite sure. I would have to talk to Dennis about that and get back to you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Oh, Keith. Oh, you're on mute, Keith.
So sorry about that. Yeah, I was just saying I had a few pools. They run typically all season long. In the summertime, they run a lot more than they do in the wintertime, but you do run them. They got to stay running to keep the water. Otherwise, it's going to turn green, algae build up, ruin the plaster and whatnot. So typically they run all season. That was it.
Thank you for that. So our folks, just to take a preliminary vote before we make a motion, are folks more inclined for replacing all 42 filters? So we got 3, 4. How about I got a yes from Sonia?
Yes, Sonia.
How about Steffi? Okay. So it looks, and Brian, are you voting or raising your hand to make a question or comment? Okay. Okay.
Who's voting? Yeah,
Okay.
all 42
So,
for me.
it looks like we have a majority. So should we just make the motion, AJ, for the 42? Looks like AJ's frozen. Okay, so Sam, go ahead and read the motion, or does a board member? I don't have the motion in front of me. Can a board member read the motion?
Yeah, we're just going to make the motion to approve.
Okay, well, does he have to read it first? Again?
Hey, Kim,
Yes.
I was just, do we need to point out that there was a change to the tax rate versus the one that's in the agenda posted on the website?
Oh, yeah, I thought that got updated. Did it not?
Meaning
have
like,
it.
oh, go
Guys,
ahead.
if you want, I can read the request. I've got it here, the one that I was printed, if that's
Okay.
it.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you. I thought it got updated, so I didn't think we needed to.
Oh, yeah, I was just talking versus what's actually posted on the website.
Okay, Deanna said she posted it. So I was under the impression that she posted all the updates, but if not, then duly noted that there was a revision because of the tax
Rate, yeah.
rate. So
Okay.
yeah, thank you, Joel. Linda, if you can read that motion.
Okay, I can. It said the motion is I move to approve the amount of $5,747.61 from the CRRRF fund that are necessary for the replacement of 42 pool disc filter covers, 26-inch with Velcro.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye, Sonia.
Sonia Vix, aye. Any opposed? Okay, so it looks like based on those that we can see and hear, it is unanimous. Thank you very much, Sam. You can get to work.
Thank you all. I appreciate you listening.
Thank you.
Sorry
And
you had to
Thanks,
wait
Sam.
so long,
Nice work.
Sam.
yeah. Thank you, Sam. And it looks like AJ's still having internet problems, so I'm just gonna move us along. He's got new business on the agenda, and I think right now I'll turn the meeting over to Keith because you want to give us some ACC members to vote on.
Yes. Am I still on? Okay, good. You can hear me? All right, great. Yeah, I have well, 2 new ones. You guys are going to ratify some that we've already talked about. And I needed those ratified, and that was for Joe Jean Kos and for Richard Hart. And I have 2 members I need to add as well tonight, and that would be Justin Provost and Dylan Gautier.
How do you spell the last guy's name?
Gottier. I assume it's Gautier. It could be Gautier.
Okay.
So
And the first one was Justin Provost. I'd like to get them appointed to the ACC committee.
yes, okay. Any questions from the committee regarding those nominations? Okay. So call the question, all those in favor of electing the nominated ACC committee members to ACC, by show of hands.
Aye.
Got an aye. Okay. Any opposed? Okay, Steffi's hand is raised for the record, so all those that are present that are voting are unanimous to elect those members to the ACC committee.
So yeah, they're appointed by acclamation.
Okay, thank you, Miss Sonia.
You're welcome.
Appointed by acclamation.
Thank you guys very much. Appreciate that.
Yeah, we'll have a lot full plate. Was there something else that we added to the agenda regarding ACC tonight? Or was it just the election of those members?
Yeah, I think it was just the ratification of the first two I gave you, and then the adding of the extra two.
Adding of the extra ones, okay. All right, and at this time, I think we need to call on our wonderful host.
Well, I'm sorry, Kim. So what AJ was going to say,
Okay.
if you don't mind, I apologize. I was hoping he was going to come back in, but the bylaw amendments that we need to put forward, the board needs to discuss and then vote on. We had sent them to the attorney first. And so everything, we haven't gotten everything back. And so in order to hit our September 9th date so that we can vote on the budget on September 9th, so that we hit our printing and everything like that, AJ was going to schedule a meeting next week so that we can deal with the bylaw amendments. And then if there's any additional issues, we can carry them over and discuss them on the September 9th so we can close everything and finalize our election booklet that night.
So we're going to have a special meeting next week instead of today.
Well, it was up for discussion. Oh, he's back, I think. AJ, can you?
Yeah, my internet's having issues, but not sure what's going on. It keeps crashing on me.
If you turn off your camera, you might have a little bit more stability.
Yeah, I don't know what. None of my laptops are wanting, or none of my computers are wanting to connect to it anymore, but my phone seems to be working. So.
Oh, okay, Sonia was just making the announcement of us having the meeting next week for going over the bylaws matters, and then we already voted for the ACC members.
We didn't discuss dates and times or if, that type of thing. I didn't know you were going to come back. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the board had wanted to get with Richard prior to the bringing all the bylaw things for the board, and we've had Richard working on some other things at the moment, so we're gonna have to we'll get with Richard here this week and get something scheduled for next week. If people can even hear me, I think I'm.
No, we can hear you. So it's just a matter of, because we were going over the fact that we need to, the following week is the regular board meeting. That's on the calendar. That's the meeting where we will need to vote on the budget. So we'll need to finalize everything. If not this coming week, we at least need to try to get it into the final stages. So because we need to have it all finished by that September 9th date. I think we lost him again.
Out a little bit here, I think, in what I'm hearing. But yeah, I think we can just schedule a meeting via email and get it posted. But, probably like Thursday of next week. Seems, keep it on our normal schedule. Make sure there's no conflicts there with anything else. So I'll talk to John in that regard and and we'll just get something scheduled via email and then get it posted to the community. All right. Was that it? Did we finish everything else while I was bouncing in and out?
Yep.
Yes, Kim did a very good job.
All right. So thank you, Kim, for covering. We got last round of property owner comments still, or did we do that already too?
Nope, haven't done that yet.
All right. Well, let's do that and go home. Slash.
Okay.
Pretty all home, but
I think we're all home. So we got 6 attendees still. So if anybody that is still with us tonight would like to jump in for property owners comments, just use raise hand in Zoom. There should be a button towards the bottom of your screen if you're using a PC, or I believe if you tap the screen, you should get some controls on most phone apps. But if anybody would like to jump in, just use raise hand and I'll bring you over. Maybe that's it for tonight.
yep. It's past my bedtime. So all right. Motion to
Nice.
adjourn.
Thank
I
you.
Second.
move to adjourn the meeting at 9:50.